Hey guys, welcome to the YouTube channel. Today it is a nice sweltering 40-degree day, which for you guys in America, I believe it's the equivalent to 105 degrees Fahrenheit, but that's what it is in Sydney today. I want to talk about collecting because that's all we do on this channel, but in a good way. Collecting used to be fun, and I just wanted to do a throwback video because the past couple of weeks we've been doing kind of negative videos about selling collections and how we got to slow it down in 2026 and all this other stuff. So I just wanted to do something about the good old days, why a lot of us got into physical media collecting. Now, we all know the arguments, we all know those arguments from collectors. It's ownership, it's this, you've got to have it, resolution. Who cares? It's a physical representation of a film you love. That is the core fundamental truth of owning a movie. If you love what's something here? If you love A Nightmare on Elm Street, it's a physical representation of a film you love, you know? That's what I'm talking about. At the core of collecting, it is about a film you love. So when you see transfers, as they call them, where the transfer is not as good as it could be, or new perspectives have been added in, such as a haze over Lord of the Rings for flashback scenes, it can sometimes come across as you're ruining the movie I love, you're ruining the collecting experience. And that is why so many collectors go back to editions like this. You know, they go back to editions like that, or they go back to editions like this. A lot of people stick to these editions because it was from a simpler time where you could just own the movie, not have to worry about all these buzzwords in collecting like Dolby Vision and HDR10 and Dolby Atmos and DTX HD and all these other buzzwords and 7.1 surround sound. Now, all of these things are nice, don't get me wrong. They help the content out, don't worry. But what if you just want to have a physical representation of like the Two Towers and it's your favorite, or maybe Return of the King or whatever? What happens if you just want that and you don't want it altered? You just want a physical representation of the film you watched in cinemas. This is where it comes to the point of collecting used to be fun. Now, for a lot of people, it still is fun. I'm not knocking anyone who still finds it fun. As I've said in the past, I've collected a lot of this. You know, there is a lot in my collection. But I want to be clear. With collecting, there was a time where you got your favorite DVD and it was like, yes, I finally got, I don't know, what's one here? A lot of people ran out and bought something like Jaws, you know? And you could look at Jaws and be like, I got Jaws on DVD or I got Jaws on Blu-ray. I'm going to watch this again and again. It didn't matter about, oh, the transfer might not be good. It's not as sharp as it could be. Now, there were people who were very much about, oh no, if you buy the HD DVD version of like Terminator 2, for example, that's a better version than the Blu-ray because whatever reason. Then the Lionsgate one came out in 2015. A lot of people go towards that and point towards that. I do not have the Lionsgate one. I'll say that now for Terminator 2. But this is what I'm talking about. Collecting used to and still does offer opportunities of putting together what versions you like. As I said, if you don't like that haze over the 4K version of Lord of the Rings and the Two Towers and flashback scenes, if you don't like the haze, then definitely your options are to go backwards and find the versions that do align with you. That's part of the fun of collecting. But somewhere in all of this, we've prioritized buzzwords over collecting and fun of it. The point where people are grading their Blu-ray copies now, I've seen. And it's like, if I wanted to watch and this is something I've talked about before, if I wanted to watch Bad Boys, yes, this is a sealed copy. This was out of print for a while. Now it has come back into print. It has been re-released. But for a while, you couldn't get the Blu-ray of this. And a lot of people were paying stupid prices just to get this. And then there was the people who were hanging them around the necks, putting them in the graded system. You know, I don't get that. It's like wearing the Charizard around the neck, you know, that image of Logan Paul wearing the Charizard around the neck, the Pokemon card. At what point do you just say enough's enough? And what point do you say, this is not what collecting's about? This is not what we collect for. We do not collect because of keeping up with the Joneses. We collect because it is a physical representation of something we love. Now, there are times where you will Some of you will downsize, some of you won't downsize. There will be times where everyone's going to have everything. I got into that mentality. Like, a lot of this was collected when I was very much looking at, I want everything. I want to have a movie library that rivals Netflix, that rivals Amazon, that rivals Disney. So yeah, you can see the sweat coming off me because, as I said, it is a 40-degree day today, or 105 Fahrenheit for those in America. Um, you know, I collected a lot of this trying to rival the streaming services. And at a point, it was fun doing that. It was very fun. Expensive, but very fun. But I heard something recently that someone went into JB Hi-Fi and in one transaction, this could be wrong, I heard it on Instagram because everything on Instagram is truthful. Someone went into JB Hi-Fi and spent $18,000 on physical media from what I've heard. And that just reminded me of the days when I would go in there and drop 1,000, 2,000 on something that I wanted. And this is just part of the overall case for, like, it shouldn't be about just money. Like, there should be a argument that you can go to a Salvos or Salvation Army shop or a Savers or a Goodwill in America and get what ones you want. I mean, they should still be available to you. The ones that you're after, there should be the same amount of fulfillment. I don't know if that's a word, but the same amount of dopamine rush buying the ones you want, saying, you know what? It's a DVD version, it's an older version, but you know what? Look at the experience of this. Like, it's got the artwork, it opens up, like, it's actually pretty cool. And that's another thing, like, the experience of opening up a collector set. Like, look at this. When you take out the collector set, you have a full-blown experience here. I don't know if any discs are loose, so I'm just going to be careful of this. But look at this. You have a full-blown box set here with discs galore and extended editions and, you know, everything in here. You don't really get the same experience with the 4K things. Now, given some companies do it, like Arrow and Criterion, but it's not everyone doing it, and you'd be lucky to even get a second disc in some of these Blu-rays 4Ks. Now, I've heard about Dolby Vision 2 is apparently coming out or already out or making its way into TVs. And honestly, so many people don't even care about Dolby Vision 1. And we've heard LG saying, oh, we might not even need to have Dolby Vision, blah, because our TVs already do that on its own. And there's just all these buzzwords saying, oh, our TVs are the best because they want to sell electronics. But when you're looking at collecting, I've heard the thing of, like, and I've said this in the past couple of weeks, rebuying or re-releasing older movies because they didn't have HDR or they were a poor transfer and now they've went back and restored. One of those was Jurassic Park, I've talked about. You know, there's nothing wrong with this version now, given it's not as, like, it has digital noise reduction. It's not as good as probably the 2025 release. But I have it, you know? How often am I taking this off the shelf? Now, if it was your all-time favorite movie, then yes, going out buying the new version is worth it for you. But if you're just a casual collector and being like, oh, well, I've got Jurassic Park, then you've got it. You don't really need to have that extra little benefit of Dolby Vision or Dolby Atmos. And as I've said in other videos, this doesn't even have the correct cinema sound. Like, the 2025 one doesn't have the correct cinema sound in terms of the DTS that was heard in cinemas. Because obviously there's a lot of variables with that. But, you know, if it had the original cinematic sound as the peaks and lows as it was on the Laserdisc, for example, it will make it a lot more of, like, yes, for the first time on Blu-ray, I've got to have that. Part of the reason I imported a Dragon Ball from France, like this one, was because this has the original broadcast audio on it. And France was one of the few countries that actually re-merged the original broadcast audio from Japan back into the footage because people found it from VHS tapes. This is one of those rare copies. But I am also of the mindset that that has no subtitles, by the way. But do you understand what I'm saying here? Like, collecting is about optionality. And when we kind of get into this mindset of competing and format hunting and buzzwords, it starts to become like, okay, we know we're being marketed to. As I said, Jurassic Park, new restoration. It doesn't have the DTS. The DTS would be nice on there. Would just be nice to have that original cinema sound on there, you know? So often people talk to A Nightmare on Elm Street here and say, like, this didn't have the original audio on it. This the 4K, shiny new 4K version. But there are still people who prefer the VHS tape, the original VHS tapes, because the audio is correct compared to this one, which is a newer mix. There's some sounds that don't make it across. Go and look at the internet for that one. But this is the thing. There's a reason why I'm downsizing. There's a reason why I am putting stuff into boxes, like these boxes sort of, where is my thing? There they are. There's a reason why I'm putting stuff in the boxes. There's a reason why I'm kind of selling stuff, getting rid of stuff. As I've said, I don't like the old movie here. I don't like that one. So why is that in my collection? I should really fold that one down, but at this point, I'd rather just sell it, you know? And there's so much in my collection, like the wrestling Blu-rays, where I'm just like, if I'm going to watch wrestling in HD, I'm just going to stream it. If I want to go back and watch older pay-per-views where it actually makes sense to have the original DVDs, like the WWF ones and the tagged classics, and the 2004 and the music ones and so on, that's when it starts to make sense of going back to the DVDs rather than the Blu-rays. Now, it is nice to have the Blu-rays there, don't get me wrong, the Blu-rays are really cool to have in my collection, but there's a certain point of like, am I having them to watch, or am I having them just because, you know, because they're cool to have? And yeah, they're very cool to have, don't get me wrong, they're very, very cool to have, but I just think us as collectors, we're getting a bit to the point where we're losing track of what collecting's all about. It's not about buzzwords. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's not about I spent X amount of dollars on my collection, therefore I'm better than all collectors. You know, Jeff has a bigger collection than I do. Serial at Midnight still has a bigger collection than I do. There are so many YouTubers out there that have a bigger collection than I do. There are people who've been on YouTube longer than I have, who have bigger audiences, bigger collections. There's a guy, I forget the exact channel name, sorry, I forget the exact channel name, but he's done out his entire basement. He has like rows full of Blu-rays and DVDs and VHS and all that. These are the old guard of YouTube, and these are the ones who I was inspired to follow in the footsteps of. But then you start competing and start saying, oh, well, I want to have all that as well. And as I sweat very much, because it's, as I said, 40-degree day, or 105 Fahrenheit, it just gets to a point where I'm feeling more fulfilled going in and buying a bag of DVDs from somewhere like the Salvation Army for $1 a disc than I am buying a shiny new 4K Blu-ray. Now, given if it is like The Punisher or something, like I love The Punisher, both versions of The Punisher. I have not seen the TV series of The Punisher, but you know, these two are pretty cool movies. I do like the Punisher character, you know, how stereotypical. But you know, The Punisher is pretty cool. Spider-Man. I have heard that they have re-released or are planning to re-release Spider-Man because these transfers are older. I mean, I have Spider-Man. It's there. I've got it. I don't know if I'll go back out and re-buy it. And that's the question I want to put to you guys today. Are we as a collecting community, are we really getting to the point now where we have lost track of what collecting's about? As I said, it's about a physical representation of a movie you love. And if it's something like I've said many times, I'm a big fan of Titanic. Very big fan. I love this movie. When it comes to the 4K version though, I actually prefer to have the one I ripped from the 3D disc, because it's open matte for one. It extends the top and bottom bars. Now, it's not cinematic. It's not what James Cameron wanted. It was done for the 3D version, but I ripped that to a hard drive because I do have the disc and I do have the 3D version. And I actually watch that version when I watch it, because that top and bottom extra details and stuff that you can't see is a little bit of an extra, here you go, like a little bit of an extra reward for watching Titanic. Now, I do watch the 4K versions as well. I have it there. I've watched the 4K version probably 6 or 7 times since it's been out, maybe even more. But this is what I'm talking about. I have that version. I choose to watch many different versions. I've even watched the DVD versions here and there. But unless something is your favorite movie, do you really care? Or are you just having it so that so-and-so has that, so you need to have it? That's not collecting. That's competing. And if you're just collecting for the buzzwords, Dolby Vision on there now. Jurassic Park has Dolby Vision. Well, why wouldn't you just wait for the Dolby Vision 2 release then? They'll do it again and they'll say, here, now it's the Dolby Vision 2 release. Now you have to rebuy it. And then after that, they'll do the 8K release. This is just where it gets a bit to the point where of like, where do we stop? Where does the buck end with this, you know? Where do we stop with this? Where do we actually say, you know what? HDR10's enough. I mean, it truly is for most people. Most people cannot tell the difference between Dolby Vision and HDR10 unless they've got them side by side comparing frame by frame. They cannot tell the difference. If they have their shiny new 4K TV, they put in a Blu-ray or even stream it, they're watching that movie for the first time in HDR10, I don't think they're going to say, oh, this is the Dolby Vision, oh, I don't really want to watch this version, unless it's something that was done very poorly. But most people aren't doing that. Most people are just like, oh, this is awesome, I have the resolution, I can see the resolution. But there are still people who argue that they cannot tell the difference between DVD and Blu-ray, and even DVD and 4K. There are still people who stand by, I cannot see the difference between 4K and DVD. I cannot see the difference between Blu-ray and DVD. I cannot see the difference between 4K and Blu-ray. There are still people who stand by their collections and stand by things that, like, there's even people who back in the day were saying, I can't see the resolution difference between VHS and DVD. It just gets to the point of endlessly upgrading and collecting for the wrong reasons. And as I said, I've been downsizing, very much so. I'm starting to get to the point now where the ones in the boxes, I will still have them. I put my HD DVD collection in boxes recently. Not because I wasn't selling the HD DVDs. I knew I wasn't selling the HD DVDs. So I was like, you know what? The covers are just taking up space. And it is cool to have them. Because how often am I brawling them out and watching HD DVD? So you can see I've got HD DVD in boxes. I can access it when I want to access it. I will put numbers on these eventually. And so I can easily reference and find what I'm looking for. And then have them in an Excel spreadsheet or whatever. So everything is ready to go. Flip through. There it is. Alphabetical title. That's the idea. And that's the reason for the boxes. It's very much categorized like the shelves are. And it takes up 1/6 of the space. And people don't understand that. Like, I haven't done the TV series yet because 6 discs are not going to fit into a sleeve. 4 to 6 discs. But to me, I'm just collecting. I'm a little bit over collecting. Now, I have not folded down one 4K. I will say I will have not folded down one 4K. I would rather sell the 4Ks if I was going to do that. If there's something I don't want in my collection, just sell it. That's still pulled out from December Die Hard. That infamous Christmas video where I said Die Hard's not a Christmas movie. That was a fun one. But yeah. What do you think? Am I wrong in saying this? Am I saying we have lost track as collectors? I don't know, guys. Let me know. And also look at the cool Bray Wyatt shirt. Very cool Bray Wyatt shirt. I'll end on this. Give me 2 seconds. I don't know where I've actually put the mask, but I'll show you something pretty cool. If I've still got it. I do still have it. You're not going to believe it. I actually still have it. That's actually pretty cool. But here we go. We'll end on this. We'll do the Bray Wyatt mask, or what's called the follow the buzzard mask, or the sheep mask, whatever you call it. If I put on the hat with it, you know, the Bray Wyatt hat, would it go well? I don't know. May not work. But yeah, we don't know what we're doing. We're just having some fun. So random, this video. But yeah. If I sound a bit off, it's because it's a very hot day. I'm trying to minimize movement, but also do a video because I wanted to record something. And it was just on my mind. I was just thinking, like, because I watched a video about not HDR10, I watched a video about Dolby Vision 2. And I mean, Dolby Vision 2 now, we've got two Dolby 2 Furious now. And I think I put on someone's video. I'll just wait for Dolby Vision Tokyo Drift at this point. I mean, seriously. Let me know down in the comments. Jump down. Say stuff in the comments about what you feel. Have we lost track of collecting? Have we lost track of what it's about? Let me know down in the comments. Catch you in the next one. Peace.